Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Eat, Smoke, Drink. I'm quite excited today because today we're going to be reviewing a very special bottle. Okay, so today we're going to review the Signatory Vintage, independently bottled Blair Athol 1988, 27 years old. So yeah, I'm quite excited because these kind of bottles, it's not something that I drink too often. Okay, these kind of bottles, it's a special kind of bottle for celebration. In this particular one, it's my wife's birthday bottle. So Blair Athol, just a little background on Blair Athol. Usually they save the whiskies, the malts that they make for blended whiskies. Bell's whiskey actually contains a lot of Blair Athol in there, amongst other things as well. So it's not every day you will have a Blair Athol distillery bottling, which is available but very uncommon, let alone a 27-year-old single malt from one barrel, which is matured in a refill sherry bud. But if you have a look at that color and look at that color, there's no artificial color there, no chill filtering. It's just straight from the barrel to the bottle. There's more of a close-up of the color as well as I'm pouring it, and I'll show you. So, standard tasting, we have straight out of the bottle, and we have just a few drops. And we'll take you through it. I'm putting 3 in there because the whiskey is actually just literally 58.9%. It's a beast, and I'm looking forward to trying it. So it's a very special bottle. So not every day I'm going to be reviewing this kind of bottle. So let's just start nosing it. Oh, wow. So the intensity of the nose is immediate, very immediate. The sherry influence is also very immediate, even without seeing that. I mean, even if you're blindfolded, not seeing the color, you can just get that fruit cake, Christmas cake, cinnamon, nutmeg, spice notes getting in there. What is interesting though, Blair Athol is, I've had a couple of these before, and they're very known for their kind of damp, earthen warehouse, wet wood leather, like a damp leather. Actually, I'd say both damp leather and newly varnished leather notes on them. So you get a little bit of like a very slight medicinal sweetness, sherry, spice, fruit cake. Oh, it's fantastic. Now, let's compare that to the one with water. So when you nose with and without water, with the water, the sweetness comes through more. The spice is subdued, the dank, the fusty smell is subdued a lot with just 3 drops of water that you saw, 3 drops. And if you've seen my previous episode where I go through different types of water, you'll know what I mean. I use pure distilled water, and 3 drops makes a difference. Sometimes you've got to put more in as you sip it because it might be a little bit too much, too overwhelming, too high alcohol, but every whiskey has its own character. But the sweetness comes through more, the spice slightly subdued, the fusty smell subdued. But what's interesting, what is coming through more is a minerally, a stony kind of note. Very interesting. The note is dramatically different. So let's taste it. Oh, wow. That is potent. That is potent. Let my mind just start. I don't rehearse these tastings, so I have to let my mind catch up a little bit. So, straight away when you put it in your mouth and you start swirling it, and when you're drinking whiskey, I would suggest you do the same. Don't just sip and swallow. Sip, maybe a teaspoon and a half, swirl it in your mouth for several seconds, even 15-20 seconds, depending on how long your mouth can last for the alcohol. Let yourself salivate and then just push it in the roof of your mouth and then drink it. Now, straight away from the get-go, I'm getting this it's like an oil covering my mouth. The mouthfeel is amazing. It's waxy, it's oily, it's full and rich and extremely complex. Oh. I'm getting a very intense orange rind, a hint of spice, and the back of the throat, just the back of the nose, I'm getting like almost a methane slash kind of volcanic sulfuric kind of smell right there in the back of the throat. Like, it's quite pungent, but not like, it's not like a smoke or a peat. It's just, I think it's that kind of wet leather, wet wood, rotting leaf litter. Actually, that's probably the best way to do it. It's like when you go for a walk in the forest, you kick the ground, that leaf litter layer, you're getting that earthiness coming through. Now let's try the one with water. Yeah, the nose is very subdued with the water compared to without the water, but you can still smell it's very similar whiskey. Whoa. Wow, they're distinctly different. The two are very different. With water, whoa, with water, you lose that mouthfeel. Well, not lose it, but it's that mouthfeel is definitely reduced. So that mouthfeel of oiliness, waxiness, I'd say that's cut in half. It's not actually a bad thing, because what I'm tasting is I'm tasting a lot more orange marmalade, a lot more fruit cake. The sherry shines. The sherry shines a little bit more with the water. So I'm getting that kind of that syrupy thickness in my mouth, but not the oily and waxiness of the first round with the water. I mean, this whiskey is just super complex. It is. I'm still tasting it. My mouth is salivating. It's super complex. There's no. This is not a soft whiskey by all means. It's quite a robust whiskey. Go for another sip. Yeah, the mouthfeel is not as thick, oily, and mouth coating as the other one, but the texture is full. It's like you have to chew it. It's not a whiskey for the faint-hearted. And with water, I'm finding, which is strange because on the nose, I'm not getting that smell, the fusty smell. Kind of like, you know, when you open up a thing of blue cheese and you get that, whoo, you know, that little joy, a hit of joy. You're not getting that. What's happening is you're not getting that nose, but on the taste with water, you're actually getting that dank smell more in the back of the nose with water. So that's fascinating. I mean, you know, the thing with whiskeys is that when I drink them, I always try them with or without water, because you never know what's going to happen. So the finish, I mean, apart from the notes that we're tasting, the finish is very similar to both. The palate's different, the mid style of the palate is different, but the finish coats them out, it stays around. I mean, I'd say that I can sip, and then after my first sip, I can probably sit there for several minutes before sipping again. One drink will last you a while because it's not something you can drink too fast. You've got to savor it, you've got to think about it. It's not a whiskey you just drink and go, yeah, you know, let's have another shot or another dram. It's a whiskey that you've got to sit and think about it and fully appreciate, or else it will be wasted. It is, I mean, I'd say that it's probably one of the better whiskeys I've had lately. And yeah, now which one do I prefer, with or without water? Look, that's a hard one. I don't think I can pick it with this one so much. I think if I had to pick one, I'd say without water, because I love that kind of methane-y, dank, kind of rotting leaf litter smell in the back of my throat. It reminds me of Springbank, which is my favorite distillery. So I'm a little bit biased in that regard, but I love that kind of character of, you know, when you crack open or cut open a Century egg, you get that gas that kind of hits you in the mouth. I know most people probably don't like Century egg, but you know, unfortunately, this has a little bit of that gas coming through right in the end. So I'd say that just by a small margin with water, I prefer it slightly more. Without water, I do like a mouthfeel. I really love the mouthfeel. Now what I'm going to do is I've only had half that dram with 3 drops of water. So I'm going to further water it down just to see what happens, okay? Because you never know what's going to happen. So let's add another 3 drops of water to half the quantity that's left and see what happens. Because this whiskey is such a big whiskey. It's an explosion of flavour. It's such a big whiskey. I think it can hold its own with more water. So let's have a look. Whoa, okay, so this is no water. Definitely a power hit in the face. So now this is double the water with half the quantity. So it's already been watered down, and then I've added double the water again. Now that's interesting because now it's becoming a quintessential sherry cask here. The sweetness comes through, full of sweetness. Now, when I've added more water, the dank smell, the fruity smell actually comes out more. So it just shows you the evolution of whiskey. It's not just one thing. Oh, you know, I just put some ice in it. We're not animals, okay? So 6 drops of water total. I'm getting a little bit of ginger, some cinnamon, but once again, very fruit cakey. That's the quintessential sherry butt flavors in there. Okay. That's quite interesting. So this whiskey, it just keeps on giving. It's such a big whiskey. It's such a giant bottle of flavor that even with that water, with half the quantity, it's actually giving more. In fact, I would say now, with quite a comfortable conclusion, that be generous with your water with this. My favorite format of this is actually more water. Okay, so now I've tried that with more water. I'm getting more of that fruity smell, much more than the first few drops of water. And I'm getting the sweetness more, the spice more, the flavor is more well-rounded. Now it's probably from the dilution of alcohol, which makes sense. So I'm getting a much more well-rounded flavor profile, much more balanced. And I'm still getting that wet leather, that leaf litter, that kind of the woodshed where you open it after the long summer and winter's just hit and it's slightly damp in there. Kind of almost an umami fungusy flavor. I didn't get that umami mushroom fungus flavor from the first 2 samples. I only got that when I added more water. So, you know, some people say out there, oh, you know, put some water, it opens up the whiskey. Oh, I might use that sometimes, but opens up the whiskey. What is opening up the whiskey? You can't open up a whiskey really when it's already 40% in my opinion. But this whiskey, and I've had whiskeys at 65% where a few drops of water opened it up. But this whiskey is just completely different. I mean, you know, the second round of water that I put in there really truly changed it for the better. I'm getting a hint of grapefruit, lemon, pith. The orange is not so much there anymore. I'm getting slight spice of ginger in there, just a slight spice of ginger in there, but I'm getting more of a mushroom umami, you know, like that fungus growing on a piece of wood in the woodshed, you know, like slightly moldy notes. Look, I think if you have the opportunity to get a Blair Athol 1988 or a similar Signatory cask, Blair Athol, sherry or bourbon hogshead or whatever, give it a try. Buy it, jump on the chance. Even if it's a younger one and it's early 20s, give it a go. I've become obsessed with Blair Athols. I've only had 3 of them so far. This is my 3rd. I've become obsessed with them because of the uniqueness of it. It's not something you have every day. You know, you're not going to buy it from a shop and go, oh yeah, I've had something similar before. But almost guarantee you haven't, unless you've tried Blair Athols and things like that. So yes, I think this is definitely a good buy. In terms of pricing, value for money, I think it's also good value for money. It's not going to be the cheapest whiskey you'll buy, depending on where you are, and the rarity of them. They'll probably range between 250 US to 350 US wherever you are. But it is definitely worth buying. It is fantastic, and I would ask you to give it a go. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe and click that little bell button, and see you again next time. Don't forget to ask any questions, any feedback you've got. Let us know. Have you tried Blair Athol before? Tell us about it, and let us know what your thoughts were. Did you like it? Did you not? Hey, whiskey's very individual. You might hate it. Who knows? And I'll see you next time.